Hello everyone and welcome to the 5-minute guide to Ra with me, Boogie Panda. Let's start by taking a look at Ra's abilities. Ra's passive is called the Speed of Light. Every time Ra uses a skill, his movement speed is increased by 5%, and this stacks up to 3 times for 3 abilities. This means after using 3 abilities, Ra's movement speed is increased by 15%, which could help to get him out of tricky situations. Ra's first ability is called Celestial Beam. This is a slow-moving beam that moves in a line and does huge damage to opponents. This skill is very good for clearing waves and has a very low cooldown. A well-aimed Celestial Beam should be able to hit all the minions in a wave, thus making it very useful for Ra to push onto towers and phoenixes. Ra's second spell is called Divine Light. This is an area of effect that's summoned around Ra himself. What this skill does is that it applies a slow to enemies every 0.5 seconds for 3 seconds. Every single time it hits an opponent, it does 5% slow. After 3 seconds, it also detonates for a bit of damage, and if the enemy gods are facing Ra at the time of detonation, then they are also blinded with a bright white flash. Ra's third ability is called Solar Blessing, and this summons a pillar of light that does AoE heal to allied minions or allied gods, while it damages enemy minions and enemy gods. Any enemies that are hit by this effect also have a magical and physical debuff applied to them that scales with each level of Solar Blessing. Ra's ultimate skill is called Searing Pain. After around a second of charging up this attack, during which Ra has to stand still, it fires a beam of concentrated laser at an enemy that does huge damage and has a very long range. Due to the extreme range and powerfulness, as well as the ease to aim in relative to other gods' ultimates, such as Okron's, which has a huge wind-up time and a huge trapping time, Ra's ultimate ability is relatively easy to hit other gods with and is very beginner friendly. Now let's take a look at the pros as well as the cons of Ra. One of the pros of Ra is that he has very high sustain. He has self-heal and all his abilities have relatively low mana cost, meaning he can stay in lane for a lot longer than most of his opponents, thus being able to push his lanes a lot faster, gain more XP and gain more gold. Ra also does quite high damage to the enemies, assuming you can land your 1 and 4. Both of those skills have a slight delay, but when they land, they deal a lot of damage. Because of his damage and his sustain, Ra also has very good push. With max Celestial Beam, you can pretty much clear a whole wave with just one attack. You can also heal your minions while they're under tower range, so they can take more damage, do more damage to towers, and tank the tower damage a lot longer for you. However, Ra does also come with a few cons. One of his main cons is that he has very low defense. Some people do put defensive items on Ra, but that sacrifices his magical attack and his pushing ability in order to improve his defense. The second con is that Ra has no real escape or dash, meaning it's harder for him to get out of a dangerous situation. Even though his passive does grant him some movement speed buff, it is not huge and it is not a dash like Cupid's or Agni's. My recommended build for Ra is to start off with Vampiric Shroud and boost up the Magi level 1. This enables you to have early sustain in the game. I then like to progress to Chronos Pendant for the cooldown reduction. From then on is between Gem of Isolation and Warlock Sash. Warlock Sash gives a bit more HP and more magical power, but Gem of Isolation grants a slow. Then I like to pick up Rod of Tahuti for even more magical power and Bancroft's Talon. I then go on to replace my Vampiric Shroud with either Obsidian Shard or Wall of Absolution. Wall of Absolution can be purchased earlier for that physical defense as well as a little bit of magical power if needed for earlier survivability. Skill wise, I like to max out 1 first because it does a lot of damage. Even though it is slow moving and not so great for hitting enemy gods, it is still great for pushing out minion waves or pushing onto the towers. Divine Light, your 3, should be second priority because of the heal it does as well as the damage it does. It allows you to stay on tower range for longer, keep your minions alive as well as killing enemy minions. It also allows you to heal your allies and keep them alive. You should also put points into your ultimate whenever possible, which is at level 5, 9, 13, 17 and finally at level 20. Finally level your 2 Divine Light in the spare levels. This guide will be first of many Smite guides to come from me. If you want to see more Smite content from me, please subscribe to my channel.